Do Bash is back. We want to welcome our good buddy in here tonight. His name's Dustin. He works with me. He's going to join us this week, and he's going to talk a little wrestling with us. So everybody loves wrestling. Everybody grew up loving wrestling. So shoot, we'll start this off. Is Matt, what do you think, as far as the wrestling universe, the most underrated wrestler that ever existed was? What do you think?
I tell you, my pick for most underrated is probably Rob Van Dam, because Rob Van Dam had charisma. He could do all the stunts. He could do all the jumps. He could do it all in the ring. I don't think he got enough praise for what he really did, because I think he started out in ECW, and then he got big there because he was hardcore, and then he gets into WWE. I don't think he got pushed as much as I would have liked to have seen him. But man, Rob Van Dam, to me, he was awesome. I mean, he was just way underrated. I would also say probably Owen Hart was probably way underrated, because I think Owen Hart was I think he was a lot better than Bret in a lot of regards, because I think he could be on the mic better than Bret could.
You know, a lot of people say that, man, and I think Owen, of course, he where was it? What pay-per-view did he die on?
Kansas City. I thought it was like a Raw.
Kansas City. Was it a Raw?
I thought it was a bigger event than Raw.
It was pay-per-view.
It
was pay-per-view Kansas City.
Okay, but anyhow, I think that was just a tragic thing, man. He died too soon. There's no telling how good he would have been later on in life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Daniel, what do you think? Who do you think your most underrated wrestler was?
Well, you actually stole mine, because I was going to say Owen. I thought Owen was really good. That's tragic that we lost him as early as what we did, because I think that he was probably better than Bret Hart. I always liked Bret Hart, and then whenever Owen come onto the scene, he was just as good technically, and he could work the mic too. So
I'll say this. As far as Owen Hart, accident, shadiness, what do you think?
No, I think that's total accident.
I think it was an accident. I don't see no shadiness in it.
Go ahead.
The guy that was supposed to evaluate the harness, because what was supposed to happen is he was going to have a harness on. It was going to be hooked, and it was supposed to be a quick release latch. He was supposed, whenever he hit the ring, he could just reach back behind him real quick and just pop that, and that rope was going to go up there. According to the lawsuit that his wife Martha filed against WWE, the guy that was doing that thing, that was setting all that stuff up, wasn't certified.
Wow.
He wasn't certified. He wasn't certified. He wasn't trained. WWE, WWF settled out of court with her for the tune of something like $18 million.
Dang, really?
To the point now where she, to the point now where she absolutely will not allow WWE or WWF to use anything at all to do with Owen Hart. They can't use his name. They can't really mention him that much on TV. They created an Owen Hart. They wanted to create an Owen Hart tournament, but she only allows AEW, which is WWE's main competitor now. They have an Owen Hart Classic where they
really,
yeah.
Wow.
But, she sued the snot out of WWE, and they ended up settling, like I said, for like $18 or $20 million.
Well, I think they had a bullcrap gimmick for him going that whole, what was it, the Blue Blazer or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was all because he was going somewhere, because he was going like to wrestle somewhere else or something like that.
He had originally used the Blue Blazer gimmick back in the Canadian leagues. I get back when he worked with his dad with Calgary Stampede Wrestling. He had used the Blue Blazer gimmick, so they were kind of bringing it back. But the thing is, Owen was getting ready to retire. He had already said he was 31 or 32 at the time. He said he only wanted to do another couple of years, and he was done. He was leaving.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we know they screwed Bret Hart over, so I don't see why they wouldn't be trying to screw Owen Hart over at the same time. But Travis, most underrated wrestler, go for it, buddy.
All right. I ain't gonna call it WWE. It's WWF and WCW. I know they supposedly merged, but they're still different. All right. I'm gonna say Dean Malenko.
Whoa!
Wow.
Yeah.
He didn't say a whole lot of. I don't care nothing about the microphone. Because the guy that won that's Ric Flair. He's
Right.
He's one of the best microphone guys ever. So really, there's no comparison. But Dean Malenko was good in every aspect of wrestling. He never hurt nobody. He never, he's dependable. He wasn't out here, getting busted with coke and everything. He always put the business. He always put the business first, and he showed up, and did his job.
Right.
He was one of the better ones. He was one of the better ones, and they could have made him champion, and they'd still made money.
Well, all right. Well, all right, Dustin. It's time to pop that cherry, buddy. Most underrated wrestler of all time. What do you think, buddy?
Oh man, they could be a lot of underrated ones, but I believe I'm torn between two of them. I believe I'm going to say Taz.
Oh, okay.
Taz was, as far as grappling, Taz was it. And then
they hyped him up. They hyped him up pretty bad when he was first leaving. What was it, ECW, and coming to WWF?
Yeah.
They would always have these big countdowns on the big screen. What was it called? Survive If I Let You, or something like that. Go ahead.
He wasn't Taz at first. He was. They cut it short because he was called the Tasmanian. Yeah, I can't remember exactly. Yeah. Tasmaniac, and then they cut it short.
Well, I didn't know that.
He the one that used to come to the ring through the crowd?
Is
that who that was?
I don't think so. That was Diamond Dallas Page.
No, I ain't. No. This was an ECW guy. He used to
Sandman.
Who was it?
I guess that was him. Yeah, Sandman.
Sandman.
Yeah.
Well, now before we go on, Dusty, give me your most underrated wrestler. You've been quiet over there this morning or tonight. What time is it? Oh, it's late.
It's late.
For me personally, Ted DiBiase.
Whoa, that's a good one.
Ted DiBiase. He came out of a brilliant feud in I can't remember if it was Mid-South or Mid-Atlantic. I think it was Mid-South Wrestling with Junkyard Dog. Had turned heel on him and screwed him over for the title, but they brought him up, and he's second generation wrestler. Had a cool finishing move, had a great gimmick, and knew how to get over, could work the mic, and also in ring. He, especially when they paired him with Mike Rotunda, IRS. They were a very, very good. They were a really good tag team. But yeah, I'll go with DiBiase. Plus, he was great on the mic. He had a great gimmick, and that laugh, when that music hit, that laugh. Everybody's got a price.
I was about to say that everybody's got a price.
Everybody's got a price, and it was kind of a little bit of a throwback to me to the Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. Greed is good, and that to me DiBiase, and they just didn't know what to do with him. He was kind of one of those guys that kind of got caught up in everything and all the goofiness that the WWE was doing in the late 80s, early 90s.
Now go for it, Travis.
As far as on the microphone, the most underrated for me is Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, dude, no, he was bad, son. Jake the Snake was bad.
Yeah, he just kind of whispered and got into your soul when he told you.
Yeah,
especially when he was feuding with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
And that's what made him.
Go ahead, Dusty.
Oh no, I'm sorry. You guys go ahead. I've been talking enough already tonight.
Oh, you're all right. Finish what you're saying, baby. Come on with it.
I was going to say, just speaking of what Travis said, Jake Roberts, he never yelled. His voice.
No, he was smooth as ice, baby.
He didn't have to, man, and he was way too high to be yelling.
Yeah, he was. He was on enough stuff to kill a horse.
Yeah, he was smacked out of his head.
I met him. I met
did?
him, at Bradley Square Mall in Cleveland. He did a meet and greet with a couple other guys that was up and coming.
Yeah.
He's a cool guy to sit down. I got a chance to talk to him for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Really?
And not, yeah, and his whole family is in wrestling too. His dad was Grizzly Smith, who worked in Mid South Wrestling, and his sister was Rockin' Robin back when WWE was still trying to put their women's division together, and all they had was basically Moolah and Wendy Richter.
His dad was also a pedo. He was a big child.
Yeah, he's absolutely a pedophile.
6'8",
no
400
doubt.
pounds. Who's gonna fight him off?
Yeah. 7 foot, 400 pounds. What there's nothing you can do.
Right. Dustin, what was you gonna say, buddy?
Oh, I was gonna say you can't forget about Terry Funk when it come to promos. He was that's going way back. Him and Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, he was crazy too. Dude, he was still wrestling at like 60 years old, wasn't he? Something like that.
Yeah. Well.
And there was a couple of them like that. King Harley Race wrestled until he died.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, I mean, Lawler's still going. Lawler's in his 70s.
Yeah, you remember he had a heart attack on live TV that time?
Yeah.
Dang, man. But back to talking about Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. The funniest thing I ever seen that dude do was he pulled this little kid out of the crowd one time and told him if he could dribble this basketball 5 times, he'd give him $100 or something like that.
Yep.
Or it was something like that. So the kid starts dribbling and he's like 1, 2, and when he got to 5, he slaps it out of his hand. And you know what? You could see the sadness on the kid's face, man, and they just sit there and just laughed in his face. it was brutal, man. But if we're talking about wrestling, and one of the best things that makes wrestling awesome is the finishing move. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this: if I'm asked my favorite finishing move, it's always going to be the sharpshooter. So that was Bret Hart. That's what he used. I've put probably, other than Dustin, and Travis, I've probably had all you guys in the sharpshooter at least once in our lifetime. But Daniel, what's your favorite finisher of all time?
So I really liked Bret Hart when I was a kid, and I liked the sharpshooter. But my favorite finishing move was the Razor's Edge. I actually Razor's Edge my sister for real on the bed one time, and I thought I broke her neck. It was one of them. It's like my mom wasn't home, nobody was home, and I was babysitting everybody, and I Razor's Edged her, and then she's like laying there, and I thought, oh God, I broke her neck. So I started acting like I was hurt too.
Oh my God!
Because you're scared, just like, well, if I act like I'm hurt too, then it'll make it all better. Yeah, it scared the crap out of me, but I really liked the Razor's Edge.
Razor's Edge was awesome. Matt, what you got, buddy?
I got Shawn Michaels' Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah.
I thought that you would have went with the Tombstone.
No, because
man, he's always been a Shawn Michaels freak, man. You know that dude.
I think Michaels is that super kick, man. Because I mean, he really
stole that from Gagne. It used to be the Gagne kick back in the day. AWA, I think that's where.
Michaels really hammed that up later on in his career, the whole super kick. But man, when he started using that as his finisher, I thought it was one of the greatest finishers that I'd seen. Because if you hit that thing right and you catch somebody, if they don't get out of the way, it's going to really mess you up.
I don't see how really you could fake that, man, because unless you try to jump back as soon as his foot gets to your face, either it's going to look stupid or you got to really get kicked, man.
Look at what Goldberg did to Bret Hart when he kicked him like that. He ended his career.
Yeah,
is that what?
And see, I think Goldberg is the most overrated.
I do too.
Oh, Goldberg.
Look, he could spear you and he'd jackhammer you, and that's it. That was his whole moveset right there.
He's number 2 on my overrated wrestler list.
Hey, the Undertaker said he's the worst wrestler that's ever been in the ring.
He hurt everybody, and that's part of wrestling. You're supposed to be able to trust the other guy. Nobody can trust him.
No.
Yeah, Dustin. Buddy, what do you think?
Oh, my finishers. I really like the RKO.
Okay.
You
Ain't
can
that
hit
like
it anywhere.
that's a new version of the Stone Cold Stunner, ain't it?
I was about to say the stunner, but the RKO, Randy Orton's more like the Diamond Cutter. It was more like Diamond Dallas Page's, and he tweaked it a little bit.
I thought Rod Van Dam come out with the RKO.
No, that's Randy Orton.
Well, what Van Dam do?
He done that 5-star frog splash and his Rolling Thunder.
Huh. I messed that one up. Who had Dusty, favorite finisher? What's up?
Dustin took mine, man, because the RKO, the Diamond Cutter, the Ace Cutter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, give us a solid number 2.
I don't know, at my age, a little bit of Metamucil. No,
I seen that coming.
I didn't.
I seen that
that's
coming.
what she said.
I got my nuts camouflaged so she can't see me coming.
It's overused.
No, we'll be all right.
It's overused now. It's turned into kind of like the super kick, where it's way overused now. But and the guy was probably the best at doing it. But I always liked the choke slam with Kane, because Kane's choke slam in particular, I think, was the second best for me. It was the second best finisher of the bunch.
Yeah.
The choke slam, maybe the spear, but it's been overused so many times now.
I got 2 more that you guys ain't even thought about, and I can't believe y'all ain't said neither one of these.
I ain't got the question yet.
I thought you said. Hold on now. I thought. Never mind. Go ahead, then.
He ain't said nothing.
Well, I was going to say the Stone Cold Stunner because it's quick and easy, but that was took first. So the figure 4 leg lock, Rick.
Bam! That's one of them I was going to say. All right.
And Sid Vicious's power bomb.
Oh yeah, the power bomb. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's quick and easy. I mean, it's, he doctored it up a little bit, he worked it up a little bit, but still, that's, a dude that's 6'10" power bombing you through the floor. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I got one that none of you have even mentioned yet. I was going to say the figure 4 leg lock, but I got another one. And I remember, Matt, who was it that we were wrestling over at the park that day, and he showed up with the Shawn Michaels pants on. It was Keith something, wasn't it?
Keith Baker.
Ingram.
All right, listen, I think it was Keith Baker. I beat this dude with a perfect plex in a match. I won that match with a perfect plex, but you guys didn't mention the perfect plex. I think that's what it's called.
Me and my brother used to wrestle on the trampoline, and we would do the real moves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he perfect plexed me one time, and I saw stars for about 10 minutes. It's where it's a regular suplex, but they got your leg in there with your head, and they go over the shoulder with you, dude. It didn't hurt. My body just couldn't function anymore.
I suplexed you.
That's called a concussion.
About 12 and just about knocked me out. I just about knocked myself out too.
Yeah.
No, the reason why I started laughing so hard, Corky, is because it was Keith Baker that you had in the sharpshooter, and then Mitchell come up and put him in the camel clutch, and y'all got back to back, and his back arched in a U the wrong way. I thought y'all broke that dude's back.
Yeah, we messed him up pretty bad, man. Let's talk about this for a minute.
That was before you thought that you broke your neck and started yelling to call the doctor.
God, see, you know what's bad is I don't even remember that, so I must have really been hurt.
Oh, dude, that was hilarious.
I remember.
Yeah, I remember. I was there for that one.
We're like, what doctor? Ain't no doctor.
And who had a phone,
Cell phones
Corky was
wasn't
ahead
a
of his
thing back
time.
It was that was always Corky's tagline. When you tackled him in football too hard, or if you wrestled him too hard, he'd always go, "Call the doctor! Call the doctor!" What the hell are we going to call?
I got the doctor on speed dial, man. Let me get my rotary phone and my memos out.
Matt,
Yo,
favorite match of all time.
man, my favorite match of all time is WrestleMania 10 ladder match, Ramon versus Michaels for the Intercontinental title.
Best ladder match ever.
Dude, that was probably, I mean, there's been great matches that I've seen, you know, like Steamboat and Macho at WrestleMania, what was it, 5, 4, or 3. That was a great match. The Iron Man match with Michaels and Hart was really good. But man, Michaels and Ramon, that ladder match, God, it was so good. I mean, it was just, I remember that was like the first wrestling pay-per-view I had gotten, and it was just so damn good. I mean, those guys
was great.
They performed very well that night. Well, it's
Was that
funny
the first?
though,
Go
that
ahead.
wasn't the first ladder match between them, because
It
they did a
wasn't.
lot of house shows where they were doing the ladder matches just to kind of get used to what was going on and how it would flow. Because I don't
Right.
remember a ladder match being in WWE before that. Was there, Dusty?
Not that I remember. That was the first time, because it was so novel. You know, the novelty of it. Of course, I mean, now like anything else, they overdo it. To me, but yeah, that to me, I think that was the first. That's the first ladder match I remember.
Yeah, that's the first one I ever remember too. Dustin, what's your favorite match you ever heard of, listened to, whatever, you know?
Oh man. I think my favorite match would have to be Undertaker and Mankind.
Oh yeah, Hell in a Cell.
Seeing Mankind stand up with his teeth sticking through his lip, it was brutal.
Yeah, and you know I don't think that wasn't planned, was it?
No, they improvised. They actually Vince McMahon got in their asses for that.
Dang.
He was mad. And then another cage match, if you go on YouTube and you look at it, I don't know if it was the first cage match or the second cage match, but it is Ronnie Garver versus Ric Flair, and it is fantastic. And it's still in the NWA days. And I think it was worldwide wrestling before WCW ever come about.
Dang. Daniel, hit us up with it, buddy.
Well, see, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage because I only kept up with wrestling off and on for years. So they'd be, you know, a year or two where I'd keep up with it and watch it all the time, and then they'd be 4 or 5 years that'd go by and I wouldn't know crap. So
right.
I'm gonna go back. I never could watch pay-per-view because my people wouldn't buy it.
Oh,
they were just like, we're not renting this. So for me to watch anything like that, we had to go and rent it whenever it come out at the video store. Okay. Well, I had this cousin of mine. He was a little bit younger than me, and he was really into wrestling, and he had a lot of those videos. And so that is how I was able to watch WrestleMania 6. And that was Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. And that was whenever Hogan passed the title and they put it on the Ultimate Warrior. So for me, that kind of stands out. I don't know that it was the best match because I'm sure that there's other things that were far better than that I haven't seen. But there again, I haven't seen it. So looking back, WrestleMania 6, Hogan and the Warrior, that's what I'm going to go with.
That would have been my favorite match as well. Of all time, would have been Hogan and the Warrior. Even though nowadays we find out, you know, how much of a piece of crap the Warrior was and how hard he was to work with. But you know, as a child watching that stuff, that's the most memorable match that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Travis, what about you, buddy?
I like The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 26, I think it was. That's the one where Kane come out, Tombstone, Undertaker, after they beat each other. Shawn Michaels, the Undertaker, beat each other to death. Kane rolled out and Tombstone, the Undertaker, and then Shawn Michaels crawled over top of him. I thought that was good.
Yeah, that was good.
I mean, they had a pretty good little feud going there for a while, but it's pretty good. The brother turned on the brother.
Yeah,
I like it.
That's awesome. You know, talking about wrestling back in the day when I was growing up, while I like during the summer when I would be at home and my mom would go to work and stuff, I would always go rent like the 3 and 4 hour VHS tapes at the movie store of the pay-per-views that happened last year that you're just now getting to watch, you know. And I remember this one time I had a pillow, dude. So I would wrestle all day long while I would watch these videos, right? Just in my own little world. And I remember I picked up this pillow one time and I was going to suplex that pillow, man. And I'd done a real suplex on it. I come back, but I didn't think that my head was going to hit the ground as I come back with that suplex. Because I had a pillow that was like 3 feet long, like the size of a half of a human, you know. So I picked that pillow thing up and I went to suplex it, dude, and I had to have knocked myself out. Because I remember laying there on the floor and my head just spinning because I just basically stood straight up and fell backwards and hit my head on the ground, you know, not with nothing stopping me, man. But yeah, that's one of the great memories I've got about wrestling. Growing up, it was always either WCW or WWE. Earlier, I think they had the NWA, but did the NWA become the WCW? Is that how it happened?
I don't remember who bought the NWA. Now, their NWA is actually still around. Some other guy bought it and has about run it into the ground now. But,
well, do you know who bought it? I know who bought it.
I can't remember the guy's name. But
Billy Corgan of Smashing Pumpkins bought it.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
Yep, he owns the NWA now.
Yep, but they don't really do much of anything.
Well, I think he's trying to rebuild it, and you know, it's I don't know how. And nowadays, I don't see how you can compete with the WWE. I mean,
well,
nobody has that kind of money.
The same way that AEW is, and you know, TNA was for a little while. They got it's just like when UFC bought Pride Fighting. Okay, you can't bring all these great fighters or wrestlers in the same organization because you don't have enough airtime to show everybody. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they cut some of the best wrestlers to make way for the very top tier wrestlers. So you still need some of those lower tier places like AEW, and yeah, they still got pretty good wrestlers on there. There's good storylines and all that stuff. But I ain't ever been a big fan of this wrestling. Like WWF been doing that for years. They bought out all the little regional spots. You know, they bought out the Florida spot, the Tennessee, because Jerry Lawler came from Memphis. You know, Macho Man come from his dad's organization in Florida. And then, you know, he was buying the Northeast. So he would get their main wrestlers and have them come on to the show. And then eventually he would buy them from that organization. Once they lost their best wrestlers, it's, well, why don't you just buy it all? You know, so
yeah,
I ain't ever been a big fan of that. I liked it better when there were still regional places to wrestle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there's more competition.
Well, I guess that leads into our next question.
He got his hand up, Court.
Who does? I wasn't looking. Go ahead, Dustin.
Well, since we was doing stories, I guess I could kind of give them a backstory of why wrestling was. I know Daniel, me and Daniel talked about it, and I told him a little bit of it before we started. But if you don't mind, Court.
Go for it, buddy.
So they'll understand. My papa wrestled for NWA for 18 years. So, like, Arn Anderson and Ronnie Garver, like, I've known and met a lot of these guys when I was little. Ricky Morton, is real good friends with Papa. He's Ricky Morton's part of Rock and Roll Express. If you don't know who Ricky Morton is,
Not the
he actually,
living La Vida Loca guy. Right.
no, it's the like Papa. Do you remember McDaniel Wahoo or Wahoo
Wahoo McDaniel.
McDaniel?
Yeah, he was the Indian.
So before all the regionals separated and before he was on WCW, my papa was his tag team partner for 2-3 years on the lower cards. And in fact, if it hadn't been for Papa Wrestling, I wouldn't have existed. My dad met my mom at a wrestling event, which
Dang,
is
how American is that, baby?
yeah. Dad put the ring post together, and that's how they met. And Ron Wright and Arn Anderson and all them guys. Papa still talks to them ever so often. Arn Anderson especially.
Really?
He talks about him a lot. And Arn Anderson was in the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair. And
yeah.
I got another cool story, but I can wait on that for a little while if you want.
Well, I tell you what, let's go with this real quick, Dustin, and we'll come back to that. When you're talking about when it became basically WCW and WWE, what do we think, Dusty? What do you think what was your favorite one, WWE or WCW, man? Give me your take on those two companies as a whole.
I think it depends. I watched them both. I watched them both, especially when WCW before the NWO, before when Turner had just bought it from Crockett. I watched them both. I was raised a WWE fan, but so WWE, WF always had a place in my heart. I was really, but I watched both. But I would make it a habit because I would watch Monday nights I would watch the first little bit of Raw, and then I would go back and rewatch Nitro because they would after Nitro went off the air, they would replay it, so you'd be able to go back and catch up. But I can remember, I remember some of the really bad days of WCW2 when they had like Glacier and they had these just horrible gimmicks, and they had Mortis. No offense to Chris Canyon, rest in peace, but it was just it was
Can I say something real quick? Do you remember? I bet you Matt and Daniel don't even remember, Travis. Do you remember the hype around Glacier before he came out?
Oh God!
I mean, it was ridiculous, wasn't it?
Vignette, the little vignettes they would do. It was like a little mini movie, and you're like, okay, who is this Sub-Zero knockoff mother?
Yeah. Do you guys remember Glacier?
No.
And come to find out, he was a jerk, and he was a former cop, if I remember right.
Dude, they tried to make a Sub-Zero character, man, and they hyped him up big time, bro.
Came out in the mask and the fog machine.
Yeah.
And the uniform, and he looked like he went to Sub-Zero's yard sale and just got whatever was in the discount bin.
Yeah, he really did.
If Sub-Zero and Big Boss Man had a love child.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was never mind.
I don't think that I've ever seen this dude.
And he had
look him up, man. It's bad.
And he had like the contacts or something, so it made his eyes look like they were just like iced over. It looked like he had cataracts, really.
And wasn't he like blonde headed? He was blonde headed with spiked hair like Guile from Street Fighter.
Yeah, blonde haired, big shouldered white guy sitting there trying to do all this League of Assassins kung fu stuff, doing all these thrust kicks and chops and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, he was that. Other than the Patriot, that may be one of the worst things WCW ever rolled out.
Hey, listen, do you know what the worst thing they ever did? And as usual, I forget what he's called right as I start talking about it. But do you guys remember the? God, man, like Sid Vicious was talking, and they meant to have this guy bust through a wall, right? And he had on a Shockmaster. Guys, do you remember the Shockmaster promo? Oh my
tail
God!
coming out that wall.
It's known as the worst promo in wrestling history.
You know who that was, right?
It was what was his name? Like Tugboat or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Earthquake.
That was Tugboat.
Earthquake. It was Earthquake. Yeah. So they have Earthquake. Picture this: they have Earthquake in a stormtrooper helmet, right? That's been that's been bedazzled with diamonds.
Yeah, it was sparkly.
Yeah, and so they tell him, they're like, and Sid Vicious is like, we're gonna kill you, and they're supposed to have the Shockmaster bust through this wall. Well, whoever the genius they got to build the wall put a 2x4 down at the bottom of it where he was supposed to walk through. So Shockmaster busts through the wall on live TV and trips over that 2x4 and just
and knocked his helmet, and he hit the ground so hard it knocked his helmet off.
Yeah, it knocked his helmet
around trying to put it back on.
And then you got Sting and Sid Vicious on camera trying to keep it together, man. Oh man, go look it up later, dude. You won't laugh it up.
But listen,
it was terrible.
Before he became a professional wrestler, he was actually a sumo wrestler for real in Japan.
Yeah.
Earthquake.
Yes. He was actually pretty good, but he wanted, he was married, wanted to have kids and stuff, and they didn't allow all that. You're a sumo wrestler, that comes first. You got to be so high up in the sumo stable before they let you like marry and have kids and all that.
Really? Well, a lot of the wrestlers went to Japan. You would not believe how much wrestling Hulk Hogan done in Japan when he was coming up through the years. It's like, I reckon that's where you went to make your money at back in the day, wasn't it, Dusty?
Used to be really big.
Yeah, New Japan, especially when Antonio Inoki was running things. Now he had to wrestle, so it's surreal because you think Hulk Hogan, he's the basis of the the 3 or 4 moves of doom.
Yeah.
But he's over there doing like leg trips and head scissor takeovers and arm bars and being technical. But there was a lot of guys. Steve Williams and Terry Gordy especially. Made a lot of money. Terry Funk was over there, and Terry Funk was a celebrity in Japan. They had his name on, had his face on posters and stuff.
Yeah, I remember Ric Flair said he would go over there every other month, and he would spend like 2 or 3 weeks over there just doing the circuit, and they take wrestling seriously over in Japan, man.
The trippiest thing is there was a WCW show where they went to North Korea.
Yeah, didn't Ric Flair go up there with them?
Yeah, it was Flair and like Hawk and Animal, the Road Warriors, Too Cold Scorpio. There was a bunch of them that went over there for this show, but it holds the record for the largest indoor crowd attendance. There was something like 200,000 people in this stadium, but it was mandatory. Like they made it was either you go or you get shot.
Golly bum.
So they wanted to be able to say that they held the record for the largest outdoor stadium show or something like that. So there was like 150, 160,000 people that were in this arena watching these guys. And it was Flair and Antonio Inoki in the main event.
Right. That's freaking crazy, man. But yeah, a lot of people. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I'll tell you, there's a great TV show on Vice. It's on Hulu now. Most of the seasons are called Dark Side of the Ring, and it's fantastic. Yeah. There's a lot of great stories about some of these guys and about some of these things that they happen. So,
there ain't no doubt about it. I've seen a lot of those shows. But when you're talking about wrestling, Matt, who do you think done more for the business? And as a single wrestler.
Well, I think overall, as much as I don't like him, is probably Hogan.
Yeah, I believe it has to be.
80s wrestling was it was mostly cheese until they figured it out in the mid 90s, WWF and WCW. But I think Hogan was the guy that he was the focal point, and he was the guy that everybody came to see. I mean, him and Piper's feud in WrestleMania 1, in the lead up to it, WrestleMania 1. That's what started it all. And that's where Hogan got his brand name. So as much as I don't like him, it's got to be Hogan.
Travis, what do you think?
Same thing. It's got to be Hogan. I mean, even when he went to WCW, I mean, that's when they started overtaking WWF, is when he got there. I mean, of course, it took him being in the NWO to do it.
Yeah.
But it's because that was the first time he was ever a heel, the bad guy. Hulk Hogan's supposed to be the eat your vitamins, All-American guy. And he changed, and that's what really took the ratings away from WWF. So either way you look at it, Hulk Hogan did more for wrestling individually than for both companies.
Yeah, he has to be the number one face to heel change, in my opinion. As far
and they
as
said that he was selfish, just he didn't want to lose. He had, he called his own shots. He had his own creativity or whatever. He made his own storylines, stuff like that. But he still brought in a lot of money.
That's what I'm saying.
Freedom.
If he wasn't bringing in the money, they would have never gave him that contract. So you can't really hate him for that. But when you talk about faces turning to heel, Daniel, would that be your number one, or would you think of somebody else that done that?
No, that'd probably be my number one.
Right. Yeah.
When Hogan went to the NWO,
pretty close.
Did what now?
Roddy Piper's got to be pretty close.
Well, are you saying good guys that went heel, or are you saying, good because Roddy Piper really he was always kind of heel in the wrestling world, wasn't he?
No, I think he was always kind of in between. He was kind of like
him and Hogan and Beefcake was big buddies, and he threw Beefcake through the window of the barber shop or whatever. I mean, he went from one side to the other. Hogan kind of found an in between spot. I'm a bad guy, but I'm a likable bad guy. Roddy Piper went from everybody loves me to everybody hates me right now.
He was even the bad guy on the cartoon. In
Talkin Wrassslin.
Yeah. I wouldn't piss on him if he's on fire type of hate.
I mean, he was kind of like the Zodak of the He-Man world. He was kind of in between. You didn't know if he was a good guy, bad guy. Yeah. That's where Hogan was at. But as far as Roddy Piper, he was Skeletor.
Yeah, ain't no doubt about it.
When it comes to heels, though, I think when it comes to heels, Piper's my all-time favorite because nobody got the crowd worked up in the 80s more than Piper, because then you had Piper doing the Piper's Pit.
Yeah.
And that, he would do crazy stuff. I remember when he hit, who was it that he hit with that coconut that was real? Snuka. He gave Snuka brain damage because he didn't get the gimmick coconut. He got the real coconut and cracked his skull.
He hit Snuka so hard, Snuka went and murdered his girlfriend.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes. If you watch that clip where Piper takes that coconut and he hits Snuka, that's real. Because that coconut was not supposed to be real.
No, he absolutely potatoed him with that coconut.
I got. Do you remember when Honky Tonk hit Jake Snake with that real guitar?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that.
It was supposed to be the fake guitar, and he's supposed to crack it over his head, and it's supposed to explode. But somebody didn't switch it out, so Honky Tonk grabbed the real guitar and hit Jake the Snake and knocked him out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, one thing we haven't went over yet is tag teams. Dustin, what's your favorite tag team that's ever been in existence?
Oh gosh. Probably they have 22 titles all over the place as far as wrestling, not just WWE. But Team 3D made their mark.
Now, who was that?
Era. Team
Dudley
3D,
Boys.
but Dudley Boys.
Oh, okay.
Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, but they're the most decorated tag team champions of anybody.
I can see that. Mine would have to be the Road Warriors, just because they were.
most people do say the Road Warriors, but like I said, as far as gold in the new Team 3D made tag team really relevant, especially with the Hardys and as many platforms as they was on.
Well, you know what? Let's explore this for a minute, Dusty. Why have you not? I don't know if you watch wrestling nowadays, but every now and then I'll tune in, and it just seems like they don't have tag teams anymore. Have you noticed that?
They really don't. I walked. I hadn't watched it for a while, and I kind of got back into it because I was bored. Um, but no, the tag team division's really just kind of been pushed off to the side, and a lot of that is, um, you know, Vince never really made tag teams that big of a deal.
Yeah.
He had opportunities in the past to sign Rock and Roll Express, sign Midnight Express. He did bring in the Legion of Doom, but they were built like what Vince wanted. Vince wanted the big jacked up bodybuilder,
Yeah.
monster types. And now with Triple H in charge, the tag teams have it's really much more storyline driven. They just really don't have any great tag teams anymore. They're just not that group. Probably the last, I guess, real. They've had some good tag teams in the past. They've got the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, who are part of the Rocks family before they split up. But they've had a couple of really good tag teams. They've had a couple of decorated tag teams like the New Day and that kind of stuff. But there's not a lot of emphasis on it. There's just not that concentration on it like there used to be in the past, where used to be you always had like that heel tag team. That everybody hated. You had the Money Inc. or the Natural Disasters. So you had that singles chase where you had a baby face going after a heel champion, and you had the heel tag team champion and the face team chasing them, and you just really don't have that anymore. There's just not a lot of emphasis on it. And
you gotta have tag teams. Go ahead. I think you gotta have tag teams, but thinking about that, and WWE is going into kind of like a new era when they're gonna leave USA, or is it USA or whatever it is they're on now, and they're gonna go to Netflix. So Daniel, what do you think WWE is gonna look like once it goes to Netflix?
I mean, it'll just get raunchier than what it is now. I don't keep up with wrestling anymore, but it was getting pretty raunchy, 15, 20 years ago was the last time I watched it. And I can only imagine that it's going to be even more sexualized, worse language. It's going to be even raunchier on Netflix because anything goes on Netflix. So that's kind of where I see it going.
But the reason why they're doing that is because the only people that watches wrestling anymore is the kids that watched it in the 80s.
Right.
So we don't want to watch a watered down, version of what we've always seen. We want to see, blood, and we want to see the real shit,
Yeah, and they took blood out about 10 years ago. So if you've not seen anything like that, I think the Netflix will be good. But like they've got I want to see some blood. I want to see some good old good matches. But they got to be careful to not over sexualize it to where like a normal guy can't sit down and watch it with his wife sitting beside him because it's going to get awkward. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say is the first that I ever remember it starting to get sexualized is the Nitro girls.
Yeah.
On WCW Nitro, was that Nitro Monday Nitro?
Yeah, that's the Nitro girls. Yeah.
And it then they got a pretty big stable of female wrestlers now. Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it's probably gotten better. It's probably gotten more technical and whatnot, and their storylines have.
Some of the female wrestling they're better than some of the men.
Yeah,
son. I mean, they're good.
What I was going to say is when they first started off, it just seemed like we're going to have a bra and panties match. We're going to and it wasn't all that. It was just eye candy, whatever. Just
that
like
was for ratings.
Yeah, right. I agree with that, and I think that women's wrestling has gotten a lot better over the years. So there's that.
Hey,
Well,
I will say about the tag teams, my favorite ever is the Steiner brothers.
Yeah, they were good. They were good.
They was doing stuff that all right, the Road Warriors were great, but they wasn't doing high flying stuff. The Steiner brothers, pretty big dudes back then before Scott Steiner got all roided up. But,
that dude's still wrestling.
Oh yeah, but they were still. I mean, the Frankensteiner.
Yeah,
that's a big dude doing something. I mean, that's something Rey Mysterio should probably be doing.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know how many of you are watching the current programming right now, but there's one of the guys on the main roster. His ring name is Braun Breaker, but he is Rick Steiner's son.
Really?
Yeah, and he was I think he was an All-American at Kansas State. So I mean, he's got the build. He looks like Rick, but Uncle Scotty taught him how to work out. But what scares me the most is this guy. He is fast. They said he in between the ropes, it's 20 feet, give or take. They said he's hitting the ropes back and forth at like 23 miles an hour. He is just fast. Yeah,
and that's actually their real last name is Rick Steiner. So they broke it. Yeah, so they broke it in half. Rick Steiner and then Scott. Rick Steiner's his real name, but it's Scott Steiner in wrestling.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
My favorite tag team all time, and every time they came out was always something good, was the New Age Outlaws.
Oh yeah, they were awesome.
They will always be my favorite, no matter
Your
what.
ass better ask somebody.
I mean, how could you? They were like the most unlikely pair to be put together, but man, God, when DX formed and then the New Age Outlaws, I was like, man, that's like the greatest tag team.
You know what? And I think that's probably when they started the introduction to the microphone into the ring, because after they started that, everybody got a chance to be on the microphone in the ring instead of cutting promos.
Hey, so that's what I remember. I remember Hall and Nash, and Scott Hall would always be in the ring with the mic, and he'd be like, "Are you here to see WCW?" And everybody's like, "Oh no!" Or "Are you here to see the NWO?" And like everybody just erupts and stuff. That
brings up my next question. Whoever wants to chime in about it, but what was better, NWO or D-Generation X?
D-Generation X, for sure.
Man, it's close.
Back then,
NWO, you could just they roped everybody in. It wasn't just regular wrestlers in the NWO. Now you got Latino WO, and then you got the white and black, you got red and black NWO.
Wolfpack.
Yeah, it got stupid. So, I mean, they were just trying to wrangle everybody in. The Generation X kept it to their main 4, 5, 6 every now and then, and that just lasted like 6 months.
Yeah.
But it seems like it lasted years because they had so much material every week to come out with.
They really done some risky stuff, because I remember, is it USA Network that done the WWE or whoever it was?
Yeah.
Whatever network it was, they told them, look, you can't say these 7 words on air. And so they got a press conference where they got up there and they said every one of those freaking words, man. And it was just great. Because what are you going to do, man? They're getting the ratings. What are you going to do?
I liked NWO, but not because it was better. It's just because that's what I watched back then. Right. I wasn't watching WWE back then. I was watching WCW. That was back when my roommate was Brian, lived over in Athens, and that dude was all about, WCW. That's how I learned like all them wrestlers from that time period. That's where all that came from, is whenever I lived with that dude. And we watched Monday Nitro every night, or every Monday, every time it come on. And so I always ended up watching NWO. And I liked them. I liked the gimmick. I liked what they were trying to do. But, I'd have to go back and watch some of the old DX stuff. I know my youngest brother, Nick, he was all about DX. He knew a whole lot more than what I did because he watched it. That's what he watched. I watched the other one.
They were great. They stayed right on the edge. They teeter-totted on the edge of what was allowed and what was not allowed.
So you remember X-Pac when he used to be 1, 2, 3 Kid?
I do. Yeah. Matt, you remember that night we watched him soar through those ropes? And
dude, I was there.
Was you there? We were like, he didn't even touch the ropes when he went through them, man.
He messed up. It wasn't the 1, 2, 3 Kid that did it. The 1, 2, 3 Kid was supposed to roundhouse kick that guy, and he completely missed. And so that guy went flying out of the ring and didn't touch the rope.
Well, see, before he was the 1, 2, 3 Kid, he was the Cannonball Kid. Then he was the Kamikaze Kid. He was a jobber, but people kind of liked him. He kept losing. He finally beat somebody, and they called him the 1, 2, 3 Kid.
He beat Razor Ramon on Raw.
Yeah, first episode, wasn't it?
And then
no, it wasn't the first episode because what Travis is talking about, he kept coming out and kept coming out and kept getting his ass
with
beat.
Different names, and they kept I think it was Jerry Lawler's like, he needs to change his name to Go Home Watch No TV Kid. He just keeps getting beat up.
I just remember because it was back when Raw, they were still doing it in New York. They were in it was like a garage or something like that. Yeah. I remember seeing him as the Lightning Kid, and that was a global championship wrestling because it used to be on ESPN. Yeah. They were at the old Sportatorium in Dallas. And that's the first time I saw Steve Austin. That's the Stone Cold persona. The first time I saw Stevie Ray and Booker T was on that ESPN broadcast from Dallas before they moved on and got signed to WCW and stuff.
But that was a good rivalry between 1, 2, 3 Kid and Ramon, because when Ramon got beat, because he was there to put 1, 2, 3 Kid up. And then they did like a rematch where Ramon kept coming out saying, hey, I'm going to give you this suitcase full of money to come back. Well, he ends up like beating Ramon again, like taking the money and running off. But if it wasn't for Ramon, that's what I love
you
about
little
Ramon.
Cockroach.
He said,
and X-Pac was in both, right? He was in DXN.
Yeah.
X-Pac was in NWO also.
Yeah. Yep. So they had brought Scott Hall in. And they said, hey, man, we're going to let you, we're not going to let you win this title. Is that okay? And he goes, look, he says, it's fake when you win and fake when you lose. So I don't care.
So, right.
I'm going to be drunk either way.
Yeah. Ramon was great. Ramon was great with anything.
Yeah. Poor X-Pac. He was in WWE. He was in WWE. He was in NWO, and he ended up in China. So it.
Not the country.
Yeah. Hey, so Dustin, you said you had another story you wanted to share with us, man. Go ahead and hook us up with that before we cut out for the night.
All right. So you know what heat is referred to the heels and stuff is, right? That's what the wrestlers call. Anyway, my papa, it was like their end of season, and it was one of their big matches, and Papa was a baby face, and the heel had him down in the corner and had a chain on his hand. Of course, Papa's bleeding. So everybody's there. And my Papa's brother, which is 5'7" at the max, jumps 4 rows of people and drags that heel out of the ring and beats the shit out of him. It takes 3 cops and 2 security guards to drag him out.
Well, did he not know it was fake?
No. He thought it was real. He was so mad. I mean, the wrestler went to the hospital. I mean, he messed him up pretty good. He got banned. He got banned for life.
Golly bum.
It's pretty funny. So it's a running story. Do what?
So when you get banned for life, you've done something bad.
Yeah. But he beat that dude's rear end right there.
Dang.
Hey, how about that guy jumped in on Stone Cold and Triple H's match?
Triple H beat him down, son.
Yeah, he put the boots to him.
Yeah, so when all that happened, where Papa was a baby face, he couldn't do nothing. Like, he couldn't even say that it was his brother. He had to stay away and stay in character.
Right.
Because it's like back in the day, if you went out to eat, and if a baby face walked into a restaurant and there was already people in there that was a heel, they had to leave. They didn't associate with each other at all. It was just like the unwritten rule.
And that's why it was such a big deal when Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Iron Sheik got pulled over together in between shows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they both got like suspended for a while because they wasn't supposed to be hanging out doing coke and speeding in a car together in between shows.
Just think, they had all these rules back in the day, and they didn't even hardly make money back in the day, man. Yet you had all these rules.
A lot of them still don't make money.
No, I just heard a podcast with Jerry Lawler and Stone Cold, and Stone Cold said back in the day, like, you rarely made any more than $100. And he said back then, he said, once you got to the $1,000 a week, then you knew you made it. But until then, you was hurting.
That's just crazy.
Him and Rick Rude was traveling partners for a while. Stone Cold and Rick Rude traveled together in a car a lot.
You know, they said Rick Rude was real, like he was real, like religious. If you said like GD or anything, he'd pull over and make you get out of the car. I reckon he made Stone Cold get out of the car one time and made him walk for a little while before he picked him back up and said, "Don't ever say GD in my car again."
And he was also the sixth strongest man as far as arm wrestling went in the world.
I could see Rick Rude was a big dude, man.
Yeah, like he always tried to wrangle people into arm wrestling him backstage and stuff. And it was like, that was one of the unwritten rules. Do not arm wrestle him because he'll break your arm. He's that strong,
Right. Well, you know what, guys? Before we cut out of here tonight, I got one more question. And Matt, I'm gonna let you take this one. I've done touched a little bit on this question with the Shockmaster, and I swear, listen, as soon as this podcast ends, you guys got to go.
I'm gonna go look it up.
Get on YouTube and look up the Shockmaster. And here's the main thing. What I want you to do is I want you to watch Sid Vicious try to save it. That's what's funny. That's the funniest part of the whole thing is because like Sting and whoever else, they lost it, right? But you watch Sid Vicious, he tries to keep it going, and it's just, it's bad. But Matt, give me your dumbest gimmick ever, man. What do you think?
Man, the dumbest gimmick character ever was stupid Berserker.
What? What was Berserker? Was he like a freaking caveman?
He was
Viking, yeah.
Viking, yeah.
He'd always go around the ring going, Husk, Husk. And he was just dressed as a Viking. And I was like, man, I was thinking about this today, and it's either Berserker or it's a stupid Repo Man. And I didn't like
him. Fun fact, did you know the Repo Man also played Doink the Clown at certain times?
Yeah.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I think Berserker probably is my worst gimmick character ever.
Daniel, what's yours, buddy?
Dude, I had one a second ago, and I've completely forgot what it is now.
Hey, you lost it when I said Shockmaster.
The dumbest gimmick? Man, yeah, I had a good one. I can't remember. I never did really care for Gold Dust. I thought it was stupid. Oh, the one that I was thinking of was Akeem. You remember Akeem?
The African Dream?
Yes. So
the one-man gang.
I read an article with that old guy, and they said, "Hey, man, we want you to do this like character." And he was like, "Man, I don't know anything about how to do this character." He said, "I'm gonna look stupid." And they said, "No, man, just wing it, And he said that all of that stuff that he was acting and all the talk that he was doing and the walking and stuff, he said he was completely pulling that out of his rear end. He said it was gonna be stupid. I thought it
God,
was.
I can tell, man. Oh, Dusty, what's yours, buddy? That bad gimmick style.
Oh, I'm gonna go a little old school on this one. Duke the Dumpster Drosy.
I remember him.
I don't remember him.
Yeah.
This Drosy.
It's so terrible.
He was a garbage man. That's all he was. That was his whole thing. He was a garbage man. That was it. But I remember the reason I remember it is because Lawler got heat on him because Lawler was trash talking him. And they got into it, and this was when Lawler had just come up from Memphis, so he was still in good shape. And this guy was a big dude. He was like 6'6", 285, something like that. He was a big, he's a big guy. And I remember because they not only would they not show blood, but they wouldn't show somebody getting hit with something. So Lawler picks up a trash can and goes to bash this dude, and the video freezes, and you hear the audio. You hear the thunk of this steel trash can hitting this dude in the where he kind of blocks a little bit, and then the video restarts again. He's just laying there, and Lawler's holding this trash can with this big huge dent in it that they would not show. They wouldn't show the impact on it. And
that's
now
crazy.
It's hilarious. And now it's hilarious. But you were talking about the networks and stuff, what they're letting them get away with. They're letting them get away with murder now. On USA the other night, the crowd was chanting literally, "You effed up," but they didn't bleep out the cuss word. And they were chanting that on national television. They never bleeped it out.
Dang, Shockmaster style, baby.
I always thought the bushwhackers were stupid too. They
was stupid.
Each other's heads.
Look, I ain't licking nobody's head, man. It ain't happening.
They licked each other's heads, man. And then the Royal Rumble.
Dream Dash.
In the Royal Rumble, the guy come out, and he's walking like this, and he gets up in the ring, walks straight across the ring, and somebody just pushes him out, and he just keeps on walking. He was in and out of the ring in like 2 seconds.
Doesn't Travis Stark? Doesn't he look like one of the bushwhackers tonight?
Nah, he's just whacking it in the bush. You know what I'm saying?
I knew that was coming.
And she's very appreciative too.
Oh man. Well, hey, I think that's a good way to end this one, guys. Great show. Dustin, thank you for joining us, man. We had a good time, and we'll get back together next week. Bye.